Hello, welcome to this Python tutorial. My name is Kingsley Entron, and today I'm going to walk you guys through variables, identifiers, and keywords in Python. I'm going to try my best to make this tutorial as simple as possible. If you have any question or comments, please don't hesitate to drop it in the comment section below. Without further ado, let's dive into it. What is Python variable? Python variables are containers or placeholder that stores value. In our general mathematics, we normally use letters to represent values while we run our calculation. Let's say x equal to 12, y equal to 20. In programming, we use variables to hold values while we write our Python code. So variable is the container that holds our value. In this case, we have hello world as the value. So the variable is this container that holds this value. We have two types of programming language: statically typed programming language and dynamically typed programming language. For a statically typed programming language, the data type is defined while declaring the variable. That is, the data type is defined at compile time. Examples include Java, C++, C#, Swift, and several others. For the dynamically typed programming language, the data type are not defined while declaring the variable. Examples include Python, JavaScript, PHP, Ruby, Pro, and several others. For these, the data type is determined at runtime, not at compile time. To further explain this, in Java, if you want to declare an integer variable, we declare an int data type, variable name, then value. For a string variable, we declare a string data type, variable name, and value. For Boolean variable, we declare a Boolean data type, variable name, then value. This is how we declare variables in Java. After declaring this, the Java compiler compiles our data type, variable name, and our value and run the code. If we try to change or assign a string value, let's say Kingsley, for example, to an integer data type, and an int value to a string data type, we get a compilation error. And this is the reason why Java is regarded as a statically typed programming language. But in Python, we actually go ahead and declare our variable name without declaring our data type. So for age, we have 12. For name, we have Kingsley. Is great, we have true. This is how we declare variables in Python. After doing this, the Python compiler compiles and runs our Python code. We can actually go ahead and change our values for each data type. So for age, where we have 12 as our value, that is an integer value, we can actually assign this integer value a string value. So for 12, we can actually assign it as Kingsley, which is a string data type. For name, a string value, can change it to become an integer value and assign it as 12. This will still work in Python, but in Java, it won't work because Python is a dynamically typed programming language. Its data type is determined at runtime, not at compile time. Now, to further explain Python variable, a Python variable is a name given to a memory location in Python. Let's say we have a box, a huge rectangular box with several boxes in it. Let's assume this is our Python memory. We have a variable name as num equal to 24. We have a variable name as name equal to enthron. when we declare a variable, say num for example, and assign it a value of 24, this num takes a space in our Python memory. When we declare a variable, let's say name as an example, the name takes a space in our Python memory. Each time we call num, we're actually calling the value num represents, which is 24. Each time we call name, we are calling the value name represents, which is enthroned. So this is how Python variable and memory works. It's a container that holds our value, a container that represents a value while we write our Python code. Let's move on to our Python identifier. What is Python identifier? Python identifier is a user-friendly name given to a variable, function, class, module, and several others. Now, the Python variable is a container that holds value, but this container is without a name. It's just a mere container. So the identifier is the name given to this Python variable or function or class or module and others. So we identify our Python variable or function with this name given to it. So the name must be a unique name. That is the Python identifier. Example, we have greeting equal to a hello world. This greeting is a variable, and the variable name is greeting equal to the value is hello world. So when you assign this greeting takes a space in our Python memory. Each time we call greeting, we're actually calling the variable which is hello world. Let's go to the rules that governs Python variables and identifiers. The first rule that governs Python variables or identifier is 1. A Python variable or identifier cannot be a reserved Python keyword. Now we'll talk about Python keyword in a bit. The second rule says it should not contain white space. Third says it can be a combination of letter A to Z, capital letter, A to Z, small letter, 0 to 9 digits, or underscore. It should start with an alphabet character or an underscore. It should not contain any special character other than an underscore. A Python variable names are case sensitive. Now we have name, N-A-M-E, small letters. The name, N-A-M-E, the first letter as capital letter. The name, N-A-M-E, the whole letters as capital letter. These are 3 different Python names. We'll see this on a PyCharm IDE. Let's go down to Python keyword. Python keywords are some predefined and reserved words in Python that have special meanings. Every programming language has a syntax. Syntax is the rule that governs this language, or the rule in which these languages are built. Now, these languages has keywords that are built with it. We have several keywords in Python, not just Python. Every language has its keywords. So for Python, we have 35 keywords in Python. If you try to use any of these 35 keywords as your variable name, you get an invalid syntax error. Now we have rules for keywords in Python. The first rule says Python keywords cannot be used as an identifier, just like I explained now. The second rule says all the keywords in Python should be in lowercase except Boolean value, which is true and false. Now let's go to our PyCharm IDE and explain this in details. Now, the first rule for naming the Python variable or identifier says it cannot be a reserved Python keyword. Now we have Python keyword like def. Def is used when defining a function in Python. So if we use def as our variable name or identifier, we get an invalid syntax error. So let's say we have def equal to Kingsley as our value. Then let's print def. Before we print def, as you can see, we have a red mark to show this is an error or an invalid syntax. So let's run this to see the results. I'll click my run icon here. You can see we have invalid syntax. So the reason for this is because we actually used a Python keyword as a variable name or identifier, which is improper in Python, not just Python, every other programming language. So if you try to use another keyword like for example, for is a keyword used for defining loop in Python. You have the for loop, you have the while loop. So if you use any of this keyword, either the for loop or while, we get an invalid syntax error. So let's test this and see. So we have for here. So when we run this, we also get invalid syntax because for is a keyword in Python. Let's try another keyword. We have while. So let's run this and see. We have invalid syntax. So we have several other Python keywords like the class, the def, the if, the elif, the s, and others. So if you try to use any of these Python keyword as a variable name, you get an invalid syntax error. So the first rule says it cannot be a reserved Python keyword. So when naming your Python variable, you should not use a reserved Python keyword as a variable name. The second rule says it should not contain white space. Now let's say we have a compound word. Example, we have my name equal to Kingsley and Throne. Now when I click print my space name, so when I run this, I get invalid syntax. And the reason for this is because there's a space between my and name. And the rule says it should not contain white space. Now to solve this, we close the space we have between the compound word my and name. So when I close this and run my code, it's run successfully as Entron Kingsley. Now you can actually use a camel case naming convention. To do that, first letter of the second one should be in capital letter. So let's change this to capital letter N. So let's run this. So we have Entron Kingsley. So you can actually use a camel case naming convention or normal naming convention to name our Python variable. But space is not a valid syntax in Python. The third rule says it can be a combination of letter A to Z, capital letter, A to Z, small letter, 0 to 9 digits, or underscore. Now the first says A to Z. Now I can actually name my Python variable as name equal to Kingsley and Throne. When I click print name and run this, I have Kingsley and Throne. So you can use capital letter as a Python variable name. So you can also use small letter such as name as an example. We have name as an example. So let's run this and see. We have Entron Kingsley, which is correct. It says number 0 to 9. So now I can say name 1 and run this. This will still work. But if you try to use a digit as the first word in a Python, let's say we have one name, this will give you an invalid syntax error, invalid decimal literal. In Python, you don't name a variable with a number as a starting word. This is an invalid syntax in Python. But you can actually use the number in between the name or at the end, just like this. You can also use an underscore to separate the word and the number, just like this. So if you run this, we have Entron Kingsley or Kingsley Entron, which is correct. So the next rule says it should start with an alphabet character or an underscore. Just like I explained, you can't start a Python variable name with a number or digits. You can start it with an underscore or a word or letter. So let's say we have underscore name equals to Kingsley. Print underscore name. So when I run this, I get Kingsley. Now, in most cases, the underscore name is used to running encapsulation in Python. When we get to encapsulation, we'll discuss more about encapsulation. But most times, we use a letter as our Python name to run our Python. So the next rule says it should not contain any special character other than an underscore. Now, the only special character permitted in Python is an underscore. If you try to use any other character apart from underscore, you get an error. Let's say I have $ name equals to Pascal. Print $name. So if I run this, I get invalid syntax. So the rule says you cannot use a special character apart from an underscore as a Python variable name. So if I try to use other special character like %, I get an invalid syntax error. So the rule says we can't use a special character apart from an underscore as Python variable name. The next rule says a variable in Python names are case sensitive. If I have name like this equal to Kingsley, name equal to Entron, and name equal to Blessing. If I print the first name, second name, and the third name, and when I run this, I get Kingsley, Blessing, and Throne. So despite the fact that they have the same word, name, they are different Python variables because Python is case sensitive. So this is how you name Python variables. So we have valid identifiers. Like I explained, we have valid Python names, like variable name with a number, no space in between. This is valid. Underscore variable name, number 1 or digits, valid Python identifier. We have underscore 1 underscore variable name, also valid. Variable name underscore 1 is also valid. So for invalid Python identifiers, we have exclamation mark, variable 1. So this alone disqualifies this because the rule says you can't use a special character other than an underscore. We have 1 variable name. So this is actually starting a variable name with a digit, and this is against Python rule. The next one is 1 underscore variable name. So this is also invalid because you are starting a variable name with a digit. We have variable #1. There's hash here. The rule says you can't use a special character other than an underscore. We have variable name, space, and 1. You can't give a space when naming your Python variable. So these are invalid Python identifiers. So the next thing is we talk about variable assignment in Python. Now when you declare a variable name, for example, and give it Pascal, you click print name. So what you did here is you actually assign a variable. So when you do this, this name takes a space in Python memory. So each time you call the name variable, you're calling the value, which is Pascal. So when I run this, I get Pascal because Pascal is the value assigned to variable name. So this is Python assignments. Let me comment this out. So the next one is variable declaration and initialization. Now, I have age equal to 12. And this is variable declaration. I just declared a variable as age and initialize it with a value of 12. So when I click print age, I'm actually printing the value, which is 12. So when I run this, I get 12 as my value. So the next one is redeclaring variables. Now let's say I have name equal to Kingsley Enthroned. Then I redeclare it as name equal to Pascal Uche. Now when I click print name, so can you guess the value that we printed out? So the right value I printed out is the recent value, which is Pascal Uche. So when I run this, I get Pascal Uche. So what happens here is, after declaring the first value as Kingsley Enthroned, I went ahead to redeclare the variable name with Pascal Uche as our value. So in our Python memory space, we actually change the value from Kingsley Enthroned to Pascal Uche. So this is Python declaration. So let me comment this out. So the next we have assign values to multiple variables. Now, if I have A equal to 10, B equal to 10, and C equal to 10. So when I click print A, B, C, when I run this, I get 10 for A, 10 for B, and 10 for C. So to make this short, I can actually go ahead and change it to become A equal to B equal to C equal to 10. So when I click print A, B, and C, so when I run this, I get 10 for A, 10 for B, and 10 for C, or the short way of assigning value to multiple variables. So let me comment this out. So the next one we have assign different values to multiple variables. So let's say I have A equal to its. I have A equal to bits. A equal to code. Now, when I run this as print A, so the value that we printed out is the last value, the recent value, which is code. So when I run this, I have code because when I declared A as it, I redeclared A as bits and also redeclared A again as code. So recent value is code. So when I run my code, I get code as my value because that's the recent or last value assigned to the A variable. So let me comment this out. Then go down to same name for different data type. Let's say I have age equal to Paul and age equal to 12. Print age. So age is an integer. From the word age, it's an integer. So, like I explained, Python is dynamic. You can actually use an integer name for a string value, or use a string value for an integer name, unlike Java, that after declaring the data type, you can't reassign a different value to a different data type. So when I run this, I have my age as 12. So this is declaring same value for different data types. Now you have the last as global and local variables. Now what is global variables? Global variables are variables declared outside a function. Now if I have a equals to 12, print a. So when I run this, I get 12. So when you declare a global variable, you can actually access it from any line of your code. You can also access it from your function, which is a local variable. So, but a local variable cannot be accessed outside its scope. Now let me declare a function as def age. A equal to 15. Print a. Let me call my function age. So when I call this function, a, which is 12, a global variable will be printed out. Then a, which is 15, a local variable will also be printed out. So let me run this now. I have 12 and 15. So the first a is a global variable, while the second a is a local variable. So I can access my global variable inside my function, which is local scope. So when I try to, let me try and call this b. So this is print b. So when I come to here and type print a, which is my global variable, now this will print it out as print a, which is 12, print a 12, then print b 15. So let me run this and see. So we have 12, 12, 15. So the first 12 is our global variable, which is declared outside a function. Second 12 is our global variable, which is declared outside a function, but accessed inside a function, which is local scope. And the 15 is our local variable, which is declared inside a function. So let's try and access our local variable, which is 15, outside a function, which is global scope. So print b. So when I run this, I get the name b is not defined. And the reason for this is because b is a local variable. So local variable has a local scope. When you call the function, after the function call, when the function terminates, the variable terminates with the function call. So you can access a local variable outside a function. You can access a global variable inside a function. So this is global variable and local variable. So this is all for Python variables, identifiers, and keyword. If you have any question or comments, please drop it in the comment section. If you have any tutorial you want me to make on any topic, drop it in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye.